So, hello and welcome to the Authentic You podcast. I am so excited to welcome back the lovely Jenny Lucas today. Welcome, Jenny. So excited to have you back with us on the podcast.
Thank you. I am delighted to be here. I've been really looking forward to recording this podcast episode with you today. So thank you for having me back.
You are so welcome. Me too. I've been excited about it all day. I was saying to Cobble, yeah, you've got Jenny on the podcast. So I will read out your bio, Jenny, and then you can add whatever you want to the end of that. And it is an amazing bio, everyone. So
Yeah.
just listen up. Jenny is amazing. So Jenny is a coach, speaker, and author supporting late diagnosed ADHD adults to rebuild a life that actually fits how their brain works. So important. A former secondary school teacher of 16 years, she burned out in 2021 and was diagnosed as autistic and ADHD shortly after, an experience that became the foundation of everything she does now. She's the founder of, or I can't say that word very, Audistically Me. Is that how you say that?
Statistically me, yeah, that's it.
Logistically Me, yeah. I don't know why I struggle with that, which includes the Reclaim Yourself membership, a 12-week signature program called Find Your Fucking Self, love that, one-to-one coaching, and an AI coaching companion she built called Jenny Renbob, which I am very in awe that you built that, by the way. She's the host of the podcast Autism, ADHD, and Us Three, and the author of Autism, ADHD, and Me, Your No Bullshit Guide to Life After Late Diagnosis, which was an Amazon bestseller. I have a copy, it's amazing. In 2026, ADHDistically Me I'm still getting it wrong, was named a regional finalist in the UK Startup Awards, Education and Training Southeast. Congratulations. Her work is
Yeah.
direct, warm, occasionally sweary. We love it, and built on the belief that late diagnosis isn't a label, it's a key. Anything you want to add to that beautiful bio there, Jenny?
I think that probably covers it all, to be honest. That succinctly sums me up.
Amazing. So the thing that I'm just gonna I'm gonna give you a shout out here. The thing that I'm really proud of Jenny for is it's your journey and it's how far you've
Mm.
come and the fact that you had a best-selling book, which I know is just helping so many people. And you're shaking your head in disbelief, like you're so
Yeah.
humble about it. So do you want to tell us a little bit about you talked a little bit about that in your bio, your journey to leaving teaching, ended up in burnout, realizing you were autistic, a lot of listeners, this is the Authentic You podcast. So a lot of listeners, are on that journey to, finding their authentic selves and aligning to that. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your journey to that?
It's been quite the wild ride, to be honest. And this is something that I say to people that are kind of a bit further back down the path than I am at the minute, is that there is no one way of going down this journey, and everybody's journey will be individual and quite an experience, but there will be highs and lows, and there are so many different aspects of your life to take into consideration when you have that discovery of neurodiversity. Whether you end up going for a formal diagnosis or not, that's very personal, and it can be down to access and things as well. Some people just don't have the access to be able to get that assessment done. But if you have that discovery, you have that kind of inner sense of thinking that fits, I believe that matches my experience, then there really is a whole reframe that happens. So for me, I discovered my neurodiversity at 37, and I was diagnosed with ADHD in the January and autism in the August. So within the same year of 2022. I was just coming to the end of my teaching career during that period and moving into other work. So, working in a sort of more corporate world, but from home. So I was much more able to be in control of my environment. And I think up until that point, as a teacher, as a secondary school teacher, as somebody who is very empathetic, cared a shitload about the children, and music was my subject, so it was very creative. And so we had all kinds of different personalities of young people that loved to come and choose to spend time with us. So, they weren't necessarily just there for their timetabled classroom lessons. They'd come and spend lunch times and break times. They'd come and do the shows and get involved in the choirs and the bands and all that kind of stuff. And if there's anybody at all musical that is listening, it doesn't surprise me that actually a significant number of creatives are also neurodivergent, because it's how our brains are wired. We just experience the world in a much wider way, I would say, than people who don't have this wiring. But there was a lot involved in giving in that role. And as the landscape of teaching has changed over the 20 years now since I qualified, there was so much more demand put on us as educators in the environment that I just eventually got to the point where I couldn't sustain it anymore. I couldn't explain why I couldn't sustain it anymore, because at that point when I did get signed off with burnout, I didn't know I was neurodivergent. I just thought I wasn't doing very well in life. Do you know what I mean? Like, the accumulated experience of having a partner, buying a house, adding children into the mix, still working full time, every time a layer of something else was added into my life, it felt like I became less capable and had less capacity for things, and socializing dropped off, and my well-being was always the thing at the bottom of the list. And you just kind of, before you have the identity, if you like, or the realization about your neurodiversity, you just gradually think you're just a bit of a shit human. Like, how can all these other people do all these things and go out at the weekends and socialize with family? And do you know what I mean? And you compare yourself to other people who are actually not having the same experience as you. And that can be really demoralizing. And so for me, finding out about neurodiversity, finding out about my neurodiversity, and then the journey that I've been on to kind of really explore how that fits in my life as an individual has helped me understand that I'm not actually a shit human. I'm a human with a neurodiverse brain who has got capacity limits for the amount of energy that I can expel in any given situation, and actually learning that there are environments that have been draining my energy in ways that I didn't realize was happening, and that was contributing towards the burnout and the being overwhelmed and the exhaustion. So when you start to learn those things about yourself, and you can change those environments, or you can be in them less often, and you can make other positive changes to your life, you actually realize that you do have capacity and you are a capable human being. It's just you have to be careful where you spend that energy, and you become a little bit more intentional with how you live your life, really.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Thank you for sharing that, Jenny. And that resonates so much for me, my journey as well. Like when you said, the social life dropped off, I think one of the biggest awarenesses that I had in that stage of that journey was that I was drinking a lot.
Yeah.
And actually, what I realized is if I didn't drink the alcohol, I actually couldn't cope with working 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, then going to the pub on the weekends, or
Yeah.
having, I used to have parties. I used to have a house with a big garden. I used to have like loads and loads of people come in my house. Sometimes they'd stay over. And the only way I got through that was by drinking. And
Mm-hmm.
I think, yeah, same as you, like I kind of reached this point in lockdown where I couldn't socialize. And then it was like, oh, hang on a moment, there's some capacity here, actually. Like, and I started to really build a successful business in lockdown because I had all this capacity that had been, the spoons had been taken by,
Yeah.
yeah. So that was a huge awareness. So when you say that, like, and we also kind of, did you find as well, there's like that expectation of like, well, surely everyone else does this. Like, surely everyone else like has to drop something. Like there must be,
Yeah.
everyone must be struggling behind the scenes. And you're like,
Yeah.
are they?
That's the thing. People, in teaching in particular, there's a big countdown culture. So as soon as you kind of start a term, it's like, oh, 6 weeks till the next holiday, or, a couple of days till the weekend, or 3 more lessons till Friday, or whatever. And, you would hear people go, oh, I'm so tired. I'm coming towards the end of the term, I'm so tired. And you just assume that everybody else means the same, I'm tired as you, when, you're crawling on the floor. And I particularly found that, as I say, when I had my eldest daughter and I was working, and I'd be really struggling. When I was with her, I would come home and I would just be like crawling to bedtime. It's like, oh my God, I'm going to come home, we're going to make dinner, and then it's going to be bedtime, and then I can sit down. And then, and in the days where I wasn't working, it was like, when is nap time? When is bedtime? When is something that I can put her in front of so that I'm not having to entertain her? Like the the exhaustion of doing all of those things. And I was like, surely everybody is experiencing this. And what I've realized since is that when people said that they were feeling tired, and yes, teaching is an exhausting profession. And if you're working in primary school, for example, that's even more demanding in some respects because there's more emotional burden on you, I would say, with the younger children. But it was not the same levels of exhaustion. Like people were not having that same experience of going home and then not being able to cope with being with their own child or their own children because they were so overwhelmed from the day. That just wasn't happening. But you don't see that though because people aren't that open with each other, and I would certainly never have dreamed of being sitting in the staff room and with my colleagues going, yeah, I can't wait for my kid to go to bed. Like I really struggle to spend time with her because, oh, what a terrible mother you are then. So you don't share these things with each other. And you just assume that when people say these words, they mean the same thing, and they really don't.
Definitely. Yeah. I always thought there must be, there must be something wrong with me, or this must be what everyone goes through.
Yeah.
And, when I was in corporate, my colleagues would say to me, oh, just have a glass of wine, just relax, and you'll be all right. And I'm like, no, it's not quite like that. It's not, it's not just something that gets resolved like that.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I picked up on in what you said, Jenny, which I absolutely loved, was about which we sort of we touched on, was around, actually when you get your life into alignment. So
Mm.
it's like you have the knowing, you kind of have the oh yeah, oh, okay, that's me. Ah, yes, I'm neurodivergent. Okay, you kind of have the knowing, don't you? Then from the knowing, it's okay, how do I now create the life, the boundaries, the alignment piece around that? And then the other side of that becomes this capacity to
Yeah.
do incredible things like have a best-selling book. Can you tell us more about that?
That's been quite a journey, and I think it has involved shaking up the relationships in my life in terms of like those sort of personal relationships. So obviously I have two daughters, I have a husband, and during the course of my self-discovery, my awakening, if you will, and my neurodivergence discovery, the nature of those relationships had to change. Now, with my children, they're also neurodiverse. And we very much have an ethos of allowing them to express themselves and have valid points, and be authentic in this space as much as possible. This is a safe space for them to be who they are, and I don't want them to ever have to hide parts of themselves here, because I don't want them to get to 37 and have to discover who they are as a person. I want them to have had that authenticity all the way through. But the relationship with my husband really changed and developed because I burned out, and I was therefore no longer able to do, physically some of the things that I was doing around the house. And, I kind of stereotypical position as a mum was that I hold quite a lot of the mental load for our house. And I got to a position where I couldn't do that as much. And that really shifted in terms of my husband having to sort of step up and do some more bits and pieces. And he really struggled because he sees me as this capable human being who has potential and is inspirational and has aspiration. And, he wants the best for me in life, and he wants me to always be fulfilling my potential. And I love him for that. But he really struggled to see me struggle. And he struggled to see me have capacity issues, and for me to start to see my own limitations that I had been pushing through and pushing through and pushing through the whole time. Um, and so that created a bit of discourse between us in terms of, how I was having to live my life and, recover, and how he thought I should be living my life in order to reach my full potential. So that was a little bit of a challenge. And I had to make a choice during that I had to come first in order to survive. And to think that and to say that out loud is still uncomfortable, because that isn't what we're taught in society, is that we put ourselves first, and that we, meet our own needs, and we have needs, and we meet them not at the expense of other people, but first before we meet other people's
Especially
needs.
as women, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And so that was a real revelation for me, that concept of, well, you're not going to help me, so I'm gonna have to help me. All those memes that you see, oh, nobody's coming, you have to do it for yourself. And I was like, shit, that is actually correct. So I did have to put myself first, and I did have to say, no, I can't do that. I'm having to rest now. I need to take some time by myself. And I had to actually start putting some boundaries in. And what I also realized was that I didn't know what my needs were, and I didn't know what my desires were either. Do you know what I mean? I didn't know who I was as a person. And so I had to go on a whole sort of another journey to figure those things out for myself. And that meant, to some extent, disappointing other people, because I had to no longer be the people pleaser that just said yes to everybody else because it was the most comfortable thing for them to do. And in doing all of that, and that has been, and it still continues to be a body of work. I will be continuing to do this for some time. I'm still learning and still growing. I'm by no means in the same place I was 4 years ago, mind you. Um, through doing that and through finding the things that I enjoy and putting in boundaries and saying no to things and actually kind of putting the burden back onto other people that needs to be on. I'm not just talking about my husband here, but the expectations of other people and kind of pushing those back a little bit. That has allowed the space and the capacity for me to be really confident in who I am as a person and how I show up in the world. And that has probably been the single most life-changing thing that finding out about my neurodiversity has done for me. And it's also allowed me to tap more into my intuition. And, we have done amazing work together over the last 2 years. I've worked really closely with you, Gemma, and, we've done lots of quantum healing sessions, and I'm in your membership, and there's lots of that has really been foundational to the stuff that I have done in terms of that self-discovery piece for myself and that authenticity piece. But the experience of being a person who can walk about in the world and be confident in my needs, my desires, the things that I'm seeing, the opinions that I have, is by no means 100% concrete and perfect. But the change between being this person who knows who they are and being the person that pleases everybody else and doesn't think about themselves ever, like, I would always choose this person who is authentic. Like, every time now that I've experienced it, it's quite hard to put into words, but when you experience that, you go, wow, how much of my life in a way did I miss out on because, I was pandering to everybody else, and how much more I'm getting out of life now. And I don't know whether this is because I'm now in my 40s and, I'm in perimenopause, so I've got that kind of like, I'm going to do what I want. That kind of your opinions are no longer valid to me. I am a strong, independent woman. That may well be part of it too, but it's just such a more genuine way to experience life.
I love that. Thank you for sharing, Jenny. And that sounds like that journey of like this, and I'm sure there'll be loads of people listening that are resonating with this, watching, listening, going kind of, oh yeah, like I knew something, I knew there was something. Then the realization, then like you say, that process of getting to know like not only your needs but your desires, because for
Yeah,
so long it's been like almost that bit, the authority piece was outside of you, right? And then it's about bringing that authority inside of you and going, okay, what are the needs and desires? And yeah, as you say, we've worked through loads of that, haven't we, in the last couple of years? And
yeah,
like it's been magical. It's been a magical journey watching you transform. And yeah, and the bit that I really loved, that I just really like, sometimes when someone says something, you're like, oh yeah, the bit that I really, really loved in that was like when you said about pushing the burdens back,
mm,
because actually that there's two layers to that, isn't there? There's the first layer was actually like when we sort of unmask and we um become in alignment with who we are, we realize that we can't do that anymore. We don't have the capacity to do that anymore.
yeah,
So there's that piece, but there's also this piece of actually it's not about us as well. And have you noticed when you do that and you push that back to people, actually, it empowers others, doesn't it, to step forward and step up, and actually ways we may have been holding others up or trying to, fix
yeah.
others, or have you had that experience?
Yeah, very much. And in particular, actually, with my youngest daughter, who she is 10, she'll be 11 this year. And as I say, both my girls are neurodivergent, and the little one, she she gets overwhelmed really easily with like lists of tasks. And so, if you give her like two or three things to do this, do that, do that, she kind of like, whoa, oh my gosh, like that's too much. And for quite a lot of her younger life, she would just kind of like almost freak out about it and just like have a bit of a meltdown. Like, I can't do that. No, I don't want to do that. And she can have very instantaneous reactions to things. And so that had led me for quite a long time not to push it. Like, oh, okay, I don't want to upset her, not necessarily to pander around her, but like I don't want to put this pressure on her. I don't want her to feel too overwhelmed. Um, and actually, what I've realised, I mean, probably even only in the last year, is that that is not allowing her to create independent routines for herself. If I'm always remembering to plug her phone in to charge, for example, or putting her clothes in the dirty laundry so that they're, just little things that you just kind of mindlessly do around the house. Oh, she's left a cup there. I'll pick that up and I'll take it into the whatever. And it's like, but it's actually not teaching her those skills of independence. Yes, she needs some scaffolding and support to do that. So she might need more frequent reminders. She might need some body doubling to get it done. But ultimately, I'm taking her autonomy away by doing those things for her. Because if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, or she decides to move out and live somewhere else, she's very quickly going to realise that there's nobody coming behind her to pick up all the bits and pieces, and she's never going to have learned how to do that for herself. So, you know, from that's been a real eye opener for me in terms of the balance between wanting to be a helpful, kind parent, and actually my job as a parent is to prepare her to be an independent human being.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it's that bigger picture piece, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
in that sometimes in the burnout space, it's like, oh, I need to just do this, do this, do this, make everything okay and safe. But then when you zoom out and go, actually, what's the most empowering thing for everyone in this situation? And when you do that, something that I came to realize was that in my, my people pleasing over functioning days, I was trying to like spend all my time pleasing one or two people.
Mm.
And then it's like, hang on, there's a whole world out there of people that need my help and support.
Yeah.
It's a bit like you and your book. Like I can imagine there's so many examples where you've been like, actually, rather than trying to please this person, and try and overfunction here, if I step back, allow those people to be on their journey, allow my children to like really learn those essential life skills, then I have this capacity to actually help all these people over here.
Yeah.
Have you had that awareness?
Yeah, very much. Funnily enough, the thing that popped into my head to share was a boring domestic thing. I used to really take ownership's the wrong phrase, but be quite pedantic about laundry and the way that we do laundry and fold laundry and put laundry away. And I was influenced by Mary Kondo a few years ago and her folding method. And I was like, yes, this is perfect. This is going to make it really easy for everybody to see and find their clothes, and then they won't need me to go, Mum, where's that t-shirt? Oh, it's, you know, I mean, they'll be able to see it, and it'll make my life easier in the long run. And what I discovered I was doing was all of the laundry, all of the time, the washing and the drying, and then it was like I have to do it because it has to be folded this particular way. And funnily enough, I had an ADHD coach at the time, and she was like, "Why?" And I was like, because it makes my life easier in the long run, and it makes these people's lives easier in the wrong run. Because look, you know, they get these lovely folded clothes and the system. And she was like, but why? Is it, you know, of what benefit is it to them? And I was indignant. I was like, what do you mean? It's really beneficial for them. And then actually I thought about it and I was like, I'm forcing a particular way on them. They don't really care. And my eldest daughter is quite fastidious and she kind of has things set up. She's quite organised. She has things set up in her room in a particular way. My little kid couldn't give a shit, frankly. And so I decided, and my husband doesn't care either. You know, he stuffs things in drawers and he doesn't care whether it's folded, not folded, whatever. And I thought, I'm making my life really difficult here by enforcing this thing that has to be done this particular way. And so I got them laundry baskets, like individual clean laundry baskets. And I thought, you know what? If I feel like it, I will fold the clothes when I'm taking them away. If not, they just get dumped. Kid one has something in her basket. Kid two has something in her basket. I fold my husband's stuff up and leave it on the side. He can come and get it and put it away when he feels like it. And my life has changed immensely because that is now like a 5-10 minute job, and I have got more time and capacity. And it's not only the physical time, it's the mental space. And now my husband does laundry sometimes. Now, when he does it, I'm not as bothered looking over his shoulder to see whether he's folding the things in the right way, or do you know what I mean? Like it's taking that whole burden away from me and giving me that time and capacity back to do other things with. And I mean, honestly, it's laundry, but it was the change that has made to my life has been wild, to be honest.
I love that. It's so powerful. And what I'm hearing in that is the authority piece as well. Like, actually, who's the authority of your life? It's Jenny. So there's a really
Yeah.
annoying fly joining us today. If you keep seeing me twitching, that's why. I haven't suddenly developed a twitch halfway through the podcast. I wonder if I can let it out the window. It's doing this. Don't you hate it when they do that? Like, where am I going to land next? Yeah, what I'm hearing in that is the authority piece, Jenny, where it's like, um, just because Marie Kondo says something and she's great at what she does doesn't mean she's the
Yeah.
authority of your life. And like we see this so much, don't we? And I'm sorry, I hate to say it, but it's usually men. It's usually men on YouTube saying you should get up at 4 a.m. and do,
Yeah.
this miracle morning thing, whatever. And actually, like it's about us being the authority and knowing what's right for us, and we can
Yeah.
listen to something and go, oh, that's inspiring, so I might hear your laundry story, and go, oh, actually, that's made me think differently about my laundry. And honestly, like my laundry's a mess. So um like I literally just dump it on the bed and it gets put away. Um but yeah, it's there's a difference, isn't there, between, oh, that's inspiring, that helps me think differently, and then
Yeah.
how do I do that in a way that's authentic to me? And like you say, it saved you
Yep.
loads of time just to have this awareness.
Yep.
Um, versus, oh, that person says that, therefore I must have to do that because that person's the expert. Like there's
Yeah.
something huge in that. And what I'm hearing in your story is it's saving you so much time and stress and worry.
Yeah. I was the one that liked that Marie Kondo method. I like my drawers to look like that. Nobody else cares. And so, what I was trying to do with saving myself time and energy in the long run was costing me time and energy. And so being able to like let go of that and say, do you know what, it's not that big of a deal. I don't have to be in control of that aspect has allowed me, it genuinely freed up mental load in my brain. And that is well spent in other places, shall we say.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. So, for anyone listening that is really resonating with this conversation, I think so many people will, but in particular, women that might be listening and going, hang on, like, I'm not sure that I'm neurodivergent. I think I might be. There's definitely something here. I'm definitely hyper vigilant. I'm definitely sensitive. I know for me, my journey started with them reading the book about the highly sensitive person. I was like,
Mhm.
hang on a minute, there's something here. I'm not broken. Like for anyone kind of having those like little nudges of awarenesses, what advice would you give them?
I think social media is a great place for information. We also have to be a little bit careful with what is put out on social media, but I have to say that my own awareness journey did start with, I think it was actually Instagram and Instagram Reels and other women talking about ADHD in particular in women. And I hadn't really realized that ADHD or autism could show up differently in women in the way that it does in men, and that hadn't really been very researched or talked about or publicized in any way. And that was kind of where the awareness started from me as an individual, kind of seeing other videos of other women's experiences of ADHD and it not necessarily being the kind of, oh, I've got tons of energy and I'm always at the gym running it off or whatever, because that is not my experience of ADHD. I experience the sort of hyperactive part of it much more internally, the racing thoughts, the unable to kind of
Mhm.
calm my thoughts. And that internal unstillness. That's not a word, but do you know what I mean? That restlessness inside rather than external. And actually externally experiencing physical like tiredness almost, kind of like the opposite of what you might expect ADHD to look like. And so I would say that the best thing to do is to go and find some kind of big name creators, if you like, who have put awareness information out there about their own particular journey of what that has looked like for them. And there is actually a lot more information out there online on the internet. I sound like an old person now. But in terms of like research that has been done about what things look like for women, I found a lady called Samantha Kraft had done it was like a checklist of Asperger's symptoms in women, although we don't use the term Asperger's anymore. I did find that list that she had put together really eye-opening, and the amount of things that I could go down and highlight and identify with. I think, okay, that's interesting. And I actually used that as one of the resources. I did put together a file of information to take to the GP to say, I think I need an assessment actually, and this is why. And so it was gathering that information and relating it to how that showed up in my life, and then deciding I'd like to go forward with an assessment. And I took that to the GP. Like I say, not everybody is going to be in the position of wanting to have an assessment. I work with plenty of people, mostly women, who are in their 50s, for example, 60s, 70s, who've gone, there's absolutely no point in me going for a diagnosis just now. I don't need the label, but I have adapted my lifestyle to live as somebody with neurodiversity, and that is impacting my life. Even in their 70s, the changes and benefits that they're finding with having that information are huge. So it's never too late, I would say, to start doing that research for yourself.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. And I have a slightly contentious question that's coming in as we talk about this, which is about spirituality
Mm.
and the evolution of the human.
Mm.
and whether this is one viewpoint that is out there, that is that neurodivergent people are beings of the future, and we are here for a reason, and we're here to lead the earth into a um more of an energetic awareness piece. What are your feelings on that?
I think that is a really interesting perspective, and I've seen that too. And, as neurodivergent people, we have the ability to feel and experience the world in ways that other people don't. We literally have more synapses in our brain in terms of the information that we're taking in, as autistic people all the time. So we are, we're absorbing a lot more information in the world around us than other people. And that is sometimes where the overwhelm can come from because we just don't have the capacity to process it all at once.
She says, turning
Um,
her light brightness down.
exactly. And so, it doesn't feel out with the realms of possibility that having access to those experiences, the experience, or I find music a very visceral experience. Like I experience immense joy. I often cry when I am moved by music, and I feel it through my body, a full
Mhm.
body tingles. Um, I am overcome by the experience of beautiful art, beautiful music, in a way that some people kind of look and go, "All right, something wrong," and it's just an expression of this, immense feeling that I'm having about that experience. So it doesn't seem to be out with the realms of possibility that we would be in that position. And actually, there is a creator that I follow who is open about their ADHD and open about their connection to spirit, who has recently started taking ADHD medication, as a kind of, titration for their ADHD, and is finding that they were a bit worried about what would happen with their connection when they took the medication and kind of what impact that would have. And they're finding that actually for them and their experience, the medication is helping to clear that channel even more because it's kind of quietening down some of the other inputs that are coming. So that connection has got clearer, which I think is fascinating, and wouldn't be the case for everybody. But, I definitely think that we feel things that other people don't, and that has got to mean something.
Definitely. That was one of the big awarenesses that I had at that kind of point in time of like, I've got a choice here. And I've talked about this in, other episodes where I had that choice of like, do I take the anti-anxiety medication and the doctor's saying, just take these and push on through your life? Or do I
Yeah,
go, hang on a moment, I'm here with these extra sensory receptors for a reason at this time. Like, surely this is for a reason. And
yeah.
just having that moment of like, hang on a moment, like this must be for a reason. And I saw this, I was actually reading last week a book and I can't remember what it was called, maybe The Neurodivergent Mind. I can't remember what it was called, but she talked about she'd interviewed a midwife, and this midwife would feel so intensely the emotions of what was happening, and in particular where not nice things would happen, things
Yeah.
wouldn't go so well. And the intense emotions that she would feel, and she would fall to the floor in absolute devastation. And the other doctors, and in particular the male doctors, would say to her, like, you really need to learn to dissociate and block these emotions because otherwise you're not going to be able to do your job. And the
Mm,
training, like the midwife training, was to dissociate. And actually, what I became aware of is, wow, she's actually like somatically processing that incredible like deep emotion.
yeah.
And she said it was actually the female staff and like some of the nurses that could come and comfort her and hold her when she fell to the floor. And she was just very deeply feeling that.
Mm,
And I thought, how interesting, because some cultures, and I'm going slightly on a tangent here, but some cultures do, like they have like wailing, they encourage that, that emotion, that release of emotion. And
mm,
I thought there's actually something quite beautiful in being able to like hold someone so deeply. And I know the over empathy thing can be a bit of a trauma response, but sometimes it can be like how beautiful to be able to actually properly process that emotion.
yeah.
And it's clearly there for a reason. And she was clearly there to teach everyone else about, you know, how they could move that through them and actually experience the depth of all emotions.
Yeah.
Yet the kind of standard practices you must dissociate, probably similar to teaching as well, you know, you must dissociate from that. That's the way we do it. That's the way you get through it. But
Yeah.
actually underneath that is this, you know, this ancient wisdom of like, you know, which we've always known. Oh, this weird fog thing here. You know, can you see that from your
Yes.
like I don't know what that is. I
I
know this is
noticed
the
it earlier.
light.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. There's like a weird, like a jungle fog in the plant. Um, for those who are just listening to the audio, I have a very weird, foggy, I think it's some kind of shadow of my light in the corner of my screen. If you want to see it and you want audio, go check it out on YouTube. It's a bit mysterious. Um, yeah, I feel there's so much there, isn't there, with that interplay of spirituality, neurodivergence, here to, you know, be the leaders of the new earth. Like it's so interconnected, and it thundered as if it was confirmation of that for me right here, right now.
That's really interesting. I saw a video this morning actually, which feels relevant to share, about someone talking about having been in therapy and working through sort of traumatic feelings in the body. And the experience that, you know, every time you are shoving down an emotion or an emotional experience, you are effectively burying it alive somewhere in your body. And so all of those times that you've had to suppress, dissociate, whatever emotional experiences for one reason or another, they haven't gone away. They are buried alive somewhere in the body to at some point be rediscovered, uncovered, and released. And I just thought that was a very visceral explanation for how that all, you know, it doesn't go away. We don't, by dissociating, it doesn't mean that the thing hasn't impacted us. It just means that we're kind of putting it on a shelf somewhere that we're going to eventually have to revisit at some point. And when you have, I don't know if it's possible to get out of, you know, depending on how old you are and what kind of life you've experienced, there may well always be parts that need nourishing and looking after as we go through, and traumas that need to be sort of cared for and released. But the more that you are able to work through and release and feel and experience, the more close the closer you can become to being that authentic version of yourself. And you then have more acceptance for the fact that actually human beings do experience emotion, and they do find things difficult, and they do find things joyful, and it's okay to be able to express all of that. And then you become much more aware of who you can express that with. And then kind of sometimes entire circles of people will change around you as you realize who are your safe people to be around, who are your more authentic people to be around. And that can be kind of scary. That can be kind of overwhelming when you think, oh my gosh, all of this stuff is changing and everything's so different. And I wish I had never found out. Um, but actually to work through that and get more to another side of it is to live your most comfortable, authentic life.
Mm. Amazing. Yeah, I totally agree. And it's almost like that soul part, isn't it? It's like
Yeah.
this is that authentic self, but then there's all the masking and the traumas and the people pleasing, and then we take all of that off. And then
Yeah.
it's like, this is who I am. Then we attract the aligned tribe. Then we have, you know, beautiful spaces where they're safe for us to be held, and the self-trust comes and everything else.
Yeah,
So I would
exactly.
love to just talk to you for hours, Jenny, but I think we probably need to come to a bit of a close there. Is there anything else that you would like to share as we end this podcast? Anything you've not covered off today that you want to include?
Just that it's, you know, I'm going to say something horribly cliched like life's a journey. But if you are finding yourself in that kind of questioning phase of could I be neurodivergent? Could there be something about me that actually means I'm not just a shit human being and there might be something else at play here? Lean into that. You know, there's no harm in exploring that. And like I say, if you are a person who suspects some neurodivergence but doesn't want to go down the assessment route or isn't able to go down the assessment route, there will be no harm in starting to accommodate yourself as though that, you know, you had that bit of paper that said, oh, yes, definitely autistic or definitely ADHD or
Mhm.
definitely dyslexic or definitely whatever. Because once you can start nurturing that part of yourself that's, let's be honest, has probably been quite neglected for quite some time,
Mhm.
absolutely beautiful things will come from that.
Totally. I can totally echo that. And in some sense, it's like if you just start to honor that and go, okay, if I don't have like the specific label or external validation, what if I could validate that in myself and just give myself what I need anyway? Like that's when the magic
Yes.
happens, isn't it? It's not the label creates the magic, it's the I recognize I need something and I give myself that thing.
Yes, absolutely. That permission
Mhm.
piece is huge. It really is.
Amazing. So I will pop all your details in the show notes, Jenny. But for anyone listening, if you want to just share any ways to get in touch with you, anything you've got up and coming that you want to share with us as well.
Absolutely. So the book is available on Amazon. It's on Audible, Kindle, and paperback. And if you choose to get that, you get a free PDF workbook that you can download to work alongside everything that is inside the book. You already mentioned my own podcast, Autism, ADHD, and Us Three, and that is in all the places where you can get a podcast. It's also on YouTube. For my sins, I also do a video version of the podcast, so some people can watch along if they wish. And I'm on all the social medias. Most of the places I am audistically.me, and that'll be written in the show notes for you to see what that actually looks like. And my own website is audistically.me as well. There's a theme here. And I am on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Substack, LinkedIn, basically all of the social medias.
She's
You will
everywhere.
find
We
me
can
somewhere.
find her. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's famous. Love it. Well, thank you so much for being my guest today, Jenny. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Okay.
Learned new things. Who knew? I've learned new things today. And yeah, I'm sure that everyone listening is going to find this a really valuable episode. So thank you so, so much for being my guest, and goodbye to everyone watching.
Thank you.
That was so cheesy. Goodbye. Goodbye to everyone. Thanks, Jenny.
Thank you.